Hello, welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people. I almost forgot, but it's true.
My phone just vibrated like right into the microphone. Sorry for that, but it's 11:11 here, and I noticed that
Yay.
because my phone vibrated. So we're just gonna take that as like a validation, affirmation, confirmation, whatever you want to take it.
Starting off at 11:11 in your time and talking about the Cancer new moon. Wow. So lots of indicators of like, honestly, I feel like the direction we're going to end up taking with this is taking responsibility for what you manifest,
Yeah,
which only
I feel
just
that
came
too.
to me. But
Mhm.
it shows up in the astrology a lot too, so it makes sense. So we are actually very much focusing on this new moon. It is the first new moon we've really had since eclipse season, and it is the moon in domicile in Cancer. So it's lovey. It's kind of fuzzy on the edges. Is that called like the bokeh lens when everything's a little bit fuzzy in your pictures?
I
It
think
reminds
so.
me of that. Yeah. So that's the kind of vibe we're catching, but there's some
Yeah.
flavor to it that we'll be talking about as well.
Yeah. We
Definitely.
also wanted to like dive into some like I called it a lighthouse sort
Yes.
of episode, because there's a lot of shifts on a large societal level
That's
that we
not what I thought
see.
you were going to say.
What did you think I was
You
going to
said
say?
shifts. I thought you were going to say something else starting with an SH. Sorry,
Oh,
guys.
I can use the same sentence for that. There's a lot of shit happening on the collective level, with our society being what it is.
Shifting.
Shifting. Um, big time, especially over the next couple months. Like we keep looking at it, and it's not a lot of personal dynamic shift. It's a lot of
Mhm.
us trying to figure out as individual people what we're gonna like, how we fit in this new society. And we really wanted to like give you guys some encouragement and some hope and some comfort as we go through this, because all of us can already sort of feel the tremors of this coming, and it's not inherently negative, and I don't want you to think that in the
Mhm.
slightest, because it's definitely not. It's great, but it might feel very tumultuous and
Yeah.
unguided and ungrounded, and it's not, but it can feel that way. And so we wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit with this episode as well, because it's really starting to kick off.
Yeah, it
We
feels a
need to
lot like
touch on it.
re-breaking a bone that wasn't set right in the first place. So
Mhm.
rather than living with something that wasn't fixed right the first time and causes daily pain on like a subliminal level, just break it really quickly, reset it perfectly, and let it mend. And
Mhm.
as we're going into this time where a lot of the outer planets are starting to go into retrograde, Neptune will be discussed on this episode. Pluto and Saturn are already retrograde. Jupiter's going retrograde next month. There's a lot going on. And I will tell you, I've been preparing my notes for the July astrological forecast, which will be on our YouTube channel probably by the end of next week.
Mhm.
Uh, July is a sustained amount of like, it's like the suspense violence through
Mhm.
July. But again, when you've listened to it for long enough, you realize like, oh, well, it's kind of like tinnitus, which my
Mhm.
dad and my partner both have had. So you have this thing going on in the background, and when you stop and listen to it, it's annoying, but you can also just continue with your everyday life. This is not me saying that tinnitus is not a big deal. I have watched people suffer with it. I do not want to like lessen that experience at all. So I apologize if this is not a very good representation, but the way that I want this to be understood is like we're all going to have this background hum rhythm kind of thing, kind of like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
And we also need to be able to carry on our everyday life until that comes to an end.
Yeah.
And
One thing that I'm
so
being really pushed to say for
say it.
some reason that I'm gonna say because I'm being pushed to say it. When we were growing up, or even 20, 30 years ago, whatever it is, the economy was the people's money. It's not anymore.
Hmm.
And um the when you see the headlines of like, oh, the recession or the economy's tanking, whatever, all these things, like you're gonna notice it affects individuals a lot less than it affects corporations. And that is what's the actual driver of
Yeah.
our society. So the last recession, a lot of people were like, I didn't even feel it. Like I didn't even notice. Like there wasn't even like a big repercussions, because like, yeah, the corporations felt it. These unstable, built on sand sort of spaces are what shifted and had to deal with it. And so I keep getting pushed to basically bring this up because the panic button in the news and headlines right now is like, oh, the economy is this, the economy is that, the stock
Yeah.
market is this. That's not you.
Yeah. The hype is
That's like,
real,
yeah,
but it is
yeah.
hype. Yeah.
It's hype. And so I just, if anything, like with all of these outer planets going retrograde, those are outer planets, those are collective planets, those are
Mhm.
society planets, those are not individual planets. And I know Krista's going to talk more about that, but genuinely that is what that is. And so this hopefully can give you some hope and guidance of like, this is on a like collective level that's concrete and shifting. And yeah, we'll feel stuff from it and we'll have to re-wake up in new society spaces, but that's not necessarily an impact on who you are as an individual, where you're moving in the world, and what you're manifesting in the world too. So
Mhm.
I just want to like highlight that super top level. Also, side note, one of my my fun psychic exercises I've been doing for myself lately, which is, this is so morbid, but I totally cope with humor. So just like take this with a grain of
I
salt.
get you.
Um, I've been trying to predict what next supply shortage is going to be before it happens, just to see if I'm right. I'm not sharing it on
Yeah.
here, but it's just been really kind of nice and fun to see what comes up in that way, because it's like one minor, like, oh yeah, of course is the next shortage, that sort of thing. So if you want to play with your psychic abilities and also want to cope with humor, try that. It actually is kind of helpful.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, what can you do about certain things? Like everything that's within your power, I'm sure everybody who's listening, you're doing everything that you are capable of doing. The
Mhm.
big deal is not holding yourself accountable for solving the world's problems,
Yep.
because that's not in your hands. You are not in a position, most of you,
Mhm.
some of you maybe, and good job if you are. But many of us are not in positions where we can push a button that makes something move on a global scale,
Yeah.
where we see it tangibly. A lot of us are working energetically or spiritually or just with our
Mhm.
intention or on a smaller scale that's going to ripple out, and we may or may not get to see the results of that. You are making a difference. You're just not the one with your finger hovering over the big red button. And honestly, I don't think I'd want to be in that position.
No.
I'd rather have
No.
the freedom and the flexibility to make more of an impact on a wider scale, which I think is
Mhm.
where a lot of us are. So let's acknowledge the power that we do have and be grateful that it's not the limited, focused, high pressure power that other people are, I'm sure, mostly capable of handling. And that the people who are in those positions are sort of by design to be in. We are designed to be where we are, and you are making a massive impact.
Mhm.
So just because you're not worrying over something does not mean you're not making a difference. And I think that that's a very important balance that we have to really rediscover in ourselves these days.
Yeah, when Krista and I were talking about what we wanted to bring up on this podcast, we were both just like, we can't really see super far ahead in exactly how things are going to look. We can see energetic patterns. Like if I were to look at someone's future, I can see where the light lights up of like, oh, something big's coming in at this time and something big's coming in on that time. But consistently for the last like month or so, when I ask guides, like, what is it? I can get maybe generalized, like, oh, it's a relationship thing or it's a that, but like they're not
Mhm.
giving me a lot of clarity. And every time it's like, because the world is going to look different, so I can't give you clarity. It doesn't work yet. It's like,
Mhm.
okay. So if you're feeling a little bit adrift and floaty, we wanted to just talk about that, because if you're like struggling, especially with your manifestations for this new moon of like, what am I manifesting in and how is it going to look? Don't manifest the how it's going to look. Just manifest the what you
How
want,
it's
the
going to
energy of
feel.
what you want, how you feel, how it's going to feel. Because those are things that, like the feelings of things, that's the stuff that's not going to change because society changes. The way it looks and is designed and concreteness and 3D earth reality, that's the stuff that changes. And that's the stuff that gets funky and is hard to see right now. So just
Mhm.
like, that would be my number one tip to start us off on this, like how we're going to cope with the things we want to manifest. Start with manifesting your feelings instead.
Yeah, that came up for, I was doing the individual horoscopes for each rising sign for this new moon, and a lot of it was
Mhm.
like, how do you want to feel? How does this feel for you? Because it is the new moon in
Yeah.
Cancer. Like we are definitely in our feelings. And when I look at it, we even have some situations going on. Hang on, let me find it here so I can be more specific. Oh, Neptune is stationary at this point. I knew
Mhm.
Neptune was involved. And it's also stationing within a sextile with Pluto, while Mars is square Pluto. Like I'll get to all of this, but there's a lot of like, lean into your feelings, because stuff is either moving too quickly or
Mhm.
too high level for us to be able to look at right now. And by high level, yeah, I mean society, but also I mean like the cosmic hand that guides everything. Whether you believe that that's the hand of the universe, the will of the universe, the hand of God, however that is, there's a lot moving into place. The board
Mhm.
is being set up for us, the players, to play on.
Yeah.
And so until that board is set up and we know what our resources are, we can't really conceive of how we're going to jumble them together to make some kind of
Mhm.
Lego masterpiece. Right now, we are just preparing our vision and our ideals for what we want to see and how we want to be the change that we want
Mhm.
to feel in the world. So that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that too. And that would be the thing I would say to focus on to manifest when I look at the energy of the whole situation is what type of player do you want to be once the board is set up? Where are you now and what parts are unaligned with where you are now? And then how you would like to change those going forward to be aligned to help you be that player. I would manifest that and then do some sort of aligned action with that manifestation too. Because again, you can't figure out exactly how it's going to look because we can't see that yet. But if you're like, ooh, just using an example that is great for our cohort that's about to start in the Forgotten Storytellers, and which you still have a little bit of time to submit pitches, but only a little tiny bit. We're almost full. We're really almost full. So if you want to write an aligned high vibration fiction novel that activates all who reads it, this is the program for you. Please submit your pitches to forgottenstorytellers@gmail.com. Anyway, moving on. But for using that example, if you're like, I want to be an author, this is what I want to be, this is the character I want to play in this new board game that's getting set up, is this a creative, an intuitive, an author, those spaces. Manifest that. Awesome. Work on those manifestations for this new moon. And then like go out and buy yourself a candle that you use when you write, or a new mug that it says writer on it, or clothes that you would wear as an author, whatever it is. Or you don't even have to buy anything, but that's just like a very simple example of like something you can do that's tangible and actionable. Do that thing, whatever it is that does that. If it, to help you feel more aligned before you physically are in that space that you will get into.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just giving you something that is an anchor for the feeling that you're looking for really helps. I mean, you've seen Emily and I at different points reach for different things. Like when I want to feel grounded, I hold up this giant heavy ball that makes me feel grounded. Or when I want to feel like a little bit more in tune, you hold up the Labradorite. Or I'm always playing with this thing. It's not a crystal, but it's helpful.
It's a fidget cube.
So
I keep
right,
looking for an orb that's like yours. Like my grounding tool is I have this copper heart and it's so
which is
heavy, but
nice. Yeah.
it's nice to squeeze, but it's small. And I
Mhm.
want like a big heavy circle like yours.
Yeah,
But every
the
time I
same.
find one, it's like not yet. Like it's not aligned enough yet. Like it's the wrong type of stone where I'm like, no,
Mhm.
the energy of that's too light. It's not grounding or whatever. So I'm like on the hunt for exactly what you're holding because I want like a big ball, like ground me.
This is my warm and fuzzy best friend when I need help. And yeah, I
Yeah.
like it. So
Mhm.
getting into a little bit of the astrology for this new moon, just helping you guys kind of, speaking of ground yourself, giving you tangible tools to be able to
Mhm.
work with, because there's not a whole lot about this new moon that is going to feel tangible or grounded.
What?
Um,
Cancer is the
there's
flowy, ungrounded wateriness? No way.
Well, and a lot of we have Mercury and Venus are both in Gemini, very
Mhm.
air, right? Mutable. The only planets that are in Earth signs, even if you want to talk about grounded, that's Pluto, which is coming back onto the United States Pluto return
I was just
degree.
gonna say he's
Um,
not doing nice things to
and
us
yeah,
right
and
now.
Uranus, which is now back into this little tangle with Saturn, that Saturn Uranus square that we dealt with through 2021, is because Saturn is retrograding and Uranus is kind of doing what it's doing. It's sort of activated again. It's not going to perfect again. So it's not going to come to a crux, but it is sort of there, which is why supply chain issues are persisting or,
Mhm.
peaking again. But that is also in July going to conjoin the North Node along with Mars at the time. So there's a lot of
Interesting.
instability in the Earth signs. Yeah.
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 Huh.
So
Your
right now
Jenga
we're,
tower is currently falling.
yeah,
It's
your
not
Jenga,
shattered. It's just falling, and we don't know if
yeah.
it's going to be stuck together with glue once it hits the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Jenga is like one of my favorite analogies for how we care for our own energy. Because
Mhm.
when you like, you could do the same thing with saying something's built on sand or whatever, but Jenga is like, it looked like it was going to go well, but someone poked it the wrong way and everything came tumbling down. So if you're feeling like a Jenga tower,
Yeah.
then that's okay. Again, this
Mhm.
is a new moon. It's not a full moon. So like normally I'd say on a full moon, especially in Cancer, I'd be like, if you want to cry, cry. But the moon's doing stuff. So if you want to cry, cry. Crying
Mhm.
is cleansing. And this new moon in Cancer is asking us to heal so that we can
Mhm.
reemerge and have this new rebirth kind of thing that the moon does at a crescent phase, which will come after.
When is it? We haven't said that yet.
Yeah, I know. I was getting there, but then I got distracted by the other thing. So this new moon is 10:51 p.m. Eastern time on June 28th, 2022.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for people on the West Coast, that's what, 7:51 p.m.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an evening new moon. It's going to be a very dark and emotional night, which is nice. Again, don't take dark as being evil because it's not. It's dark. It's still. It's healing. It's that
Mhm.
space between. It's liminal, and I love that.
It's also
I'm
the
also
perfect time to
very
see the
Scorpio.
stars,
Yeah, yeah. Look at
because
the lights
that's
that
my
you don't
favorite part
normally
of
get
new
to see.
moons is like the stars are out. You can see
Yeah,
them instead of a full moon where they're blinded. So,
yeah. It's a very good point.
mhm.
If you're somewhere where you can even see the Milky Way, I'm jealous because we used to be able to see it a lot from here, but we've gotten more light pollution in recent years.
Mm, that's a
Um,
bummer.
I know, I miss it. I'm gonna have to find
Mm.
it sometime soon though, because now I'm thinking about it. So the moon, normally I would talk about like what's the ruler of this lunation. And
Mhm.
honestly, the moon is the moon. So like since the moon is in Cancer and the moon rules Cancer, the moon is ruling herself right now, which is really cool, right? If you think
I
about
like that.
say that out loud to yourself and then apply it to yourself, the moon is ruling herself. And I just hope that that really rises the tide of your divine feminine
I
power.
really like that. I was looking to
Yeah.
see if I could see when the moon rise happens, even though it's dark, like just so that I
Well,
don't
it's
know.
going to
I
be at
just like that
sunrise
energy.
because they're conjunct.
Yeah,
So,
that would make more sense. That's why I just was like, I don't
yeah.
know why I'm looking this up, but I wanted to look it up for
Yeah.
some reason. So I
Yeah.
guess it applies to somebody.
A couple days later, when the moon becomes crescent, then you'll be able to see her again. So
Yeah.
that would be like the rise in the actual synodic cycle of the moon. But I digress into astrological jargon as I want to do. So looking at this, we also have Venus and Jupiter forming a sextile with each other. So that is this positive aspect that is providing resources and connections to accomplish big goals and tasks. Venus is
Mhm.
saying, I really want, and Jupiter is saying, I got you. Like I am, we have Venus who is at this point in Gemini.
Mhm.
And so Venus is saying, I have ideas, I have big ideas. It's like Venus is making a Pinterest board. Okay. She is saying, like, these are the things I want. I've window shopped. I know what I want to get. I've made my little list. I've added to cart. And
Mhm.
Jupiter is in Aries over there being like, okay, but like impulse buy, click, like shipping, whatever, ship it now. So maybe be aware of impulse buys.
I love that analogy. That's one of your better ones. That was awesome.
I'm actually rather proud of it too. I like that one.
Really
So
good.
be aware of filling emotional voids with impulse buys. But also, if you find something, like again, we were talking about anchoring a feeling with something, take this impulse buy energy, take the energy of that emotion that you want to feel more of and find the right thing that you can
Mhm.
then put the energy into. This is also a really great manifesting technique. I want to feel more grounded. What embodies groundedness? Buy a grounding crystal. Maybe this is the right time where the crystal will show up for you, Emily. I'm like, I want to see it if it does. So think about it that way of, okay, I'm feeling like I need to do this. I have this pressure, this emotional kind of drive to do something. Take it and do something aligned with it rather than buying like a coat that might be really pretty, but next season is going to be out of style and you're going to want a new one. Buy something or invest in something or put your energy into something or make something that is going to support you. You know, Venus also kind of likes food. There would not be a problem here to me if you actually like ordered food that you felt like having that day.
Mhm.
And, I am inclined to bring in this technological aspect of it because Venus is in Gemini. So like clicking purchase just feels kind of on
Yeah.
brand for this. But Venus is also, we talked last week in Gemini, is love notes. Write something, write yourself an affirmation that feels incredible. And then that encapsulates the feeling. So you can have that every day. Make it on a pretty card, write it in calligraphy, do something that makes it really beautiful. And then you have that forever. And like bonus for anybody who's inclined to view the world through a more magical lens, an affirmation really is like a prayer, an intention, a spell. It is something that you create that channels in the energy through words that gives you a result through repetition, ritual, and all of those things. Repeating it every day is your ritual. Literally, you are making magic. And also to that person that emailed us and said that they actually say at the end, go make some magic with us. I love you. That is phenomenal. It made my weekend to hear that some of you out there actually say it with us at the end. We will never stop now. So I hope most of you agree. Yeah.
Right. We will do our disjointed go make some magic.
Yeah. Shout out to Megan. You are amazing. Yeah. Again, I digress, which I'm thinking is another Venus thing. But anyway, so
it was really funny because when you said like Mars just impulse buys, I could feel Venus like cross her arms and scoff like in annoyance of like,
yeah, it was Jupiter doing the impulse
plan buys. And you jammed it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that thing in the checkout line with the little impulse buys, and you're just like, I have everything I need. I'm organized. I'm going to get this home and I know exactly where it's going to go. My vision is all set. And I just bought a candle. Where did that come from? So it's one of those things where you're just sort of adding a little bit more than maybe you need because Jupiter can expand on anything. And in this context, it's really expanding on our intentions. It's really expanding on those love notes that we're sending to ourselves. So yes, impulse buys is one way to think about it energetically, but you can also see it as just really expanding on leaning into the love notes you make for yourself. And I really feel like the affirmations thing, if you're someone who's like, this is the most meaningful way for me to go about this, that is so more than enough. It's amazing. So we have that. Mars is involved, though. Mars is coming into a square with Pluto. Let me just look at how close this is right now. Yeah, so there is a square with Pluto that is applying more or less, just because, I'd have to get into planetary speeds and stuff like that. It is applying. And so this is ambition. You got your Mars. Mars at this point is still in Aries as well. Ambition towards, think Pluto, right? We're looking at a collective destruction to get us through to renewal. Now, I don't want people to think of destruction as in Armageddon, right? Even apocalypse doesn't mean end of the world. It means like a new beginning, an ending that leads to a new beginning, right? So please let us look at the actual meaning behind these incredible words. So we're looking to allow something to go away. We're looking to detaching from something in order to create a space where new creation can happen. And Mars and Aries really does love that new creation. If you think about Aries being the first sign of the zodiacal wheel, it's fire, it's cardinal, it's ruled by Mars. Mars is there with the great benefic Jupiter. And that is just saying like, we have a lot that we can accomplish. And if you really channel your focus into bringing this thought into creation, it can happen so fast, especially with this new moon really saying, hey, my feelings are really tangible right now. And they're at the surface. So we have this ambition. We are willing to just let something go because we know that next thing is on the horizon. And that's something to really look forward to. We also have Neptune stationing to go retrograde on the same day, forming a sextile with Pluto. So again, with the dreams, again, with I don't really know what it's going to look like, but I know how I feel. And I'm going to allow for that to change who I am. I'm going to allow for that to change and like refine me through. There's this song when I was on a praise team in my church, and we had this one song that was called Refiner's Fire. And I love that because you refine yourself like gold and you become pure gold. So it's like it's like when you take a crystal and it's like a rock, but then you realize it's a crystal and you can make it shine through that way. So refining yourself to really show the full potential and the glowiest part of what you can have. I call it a poignant leap of faith because we don't really know what we need yet, but we know what we don't need. And that's
Mhm.
helping us narrow down what we do. That's kind of like checking things off the list by the deduction.
Yeah.
Deductive reasoning. There it is. Haha. I had like Sherlock Holmes in my head, and I'm like, I don't know why that was there, but it was deductive reasoning. So
Feel like I got there.
yeah.
I came around to the edge.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's also a
So
really good time to, this is just a weird one, but it's come up a
mhm,
couple different times recently. If you are trying to read something like a book and you're not feeling it, just DNF. Like it is a DNF time. Like allow those feelings to come up and like actually do the things that feels the best for you. Start a new book that might feel better to read. That is a very simple way of doing it, but just those little things. If you're watching a show and the show is kind of boring, stop watching it. Watch
yep.
a different one that you like more. You don't have an obligation to finish these things if they don't feel like they're giving you sustenance.
I like that a lot. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
a great example. Yeah. The affirmation that I had for this,
Oh, yeah.
because
Mhm.
this being the for the first new moon after the eclipse, we're still, like I said, feeling fuzzy on the details, but we're ready to try anything to be able to
Uh-huh.
move forward. And we can work together to accomplish optimistic and ambitious goals. We can do this. Because again,
Mhm.
if we're thinking collective, collective is collective. If we all work together with a common mind, we can
Yeah.
accomplish a lot. So even
Yeah.
though there's a lot happening out of our scope, there's a lot happening that we can come together to make work. So
Mhm.
think about who your people are. I've had some people comment on my videos lately about like, I'm never going to find friends. I don't understand, how to find people that get me. Find groups that have the same interests as you. And then you'll
Mhm.
find people that you automatically have something in common with. And then you'll be closer to finding people who get you and let you express that part of you. And if you go
Mhm.
to this group to express your love for astrology and you go to this group to express your love for books, that's great. And
Yeah.
before you know it, you're going to have more invitations for friendship than you know what to do with. I have experienced this personally, and it's
Mhm.
crazy how it works, especially with new moon energy on your side. So, thinking about that, the affirmation that I would suggest is I am successful in all, literally all that I do. And if you think about this, you actually are. Everything you do, you are successful in. It's a matter of what are you doing?
Mhm.
This morning, I was successful in sitting on the couch and resting, and it was
Right.
bliss,
Mhm.
right? And I can be successful in only choosing to take in entertainment that feels like it's fulfilling to me. I don't
Mhm.
have to be successful in binge watching an entire season of something just to be able to talk with someone about it when it doesn't align with me. I
Yeah.
can be successful. You can be successful in that too if you want to. It's your choice. You are successful in all that you do. And just for today, you can do whatever you want to fill in the blank with. Just for today says, I don't have to commit too far ahead with this. Just for today, in this moment, I can be whatever I want to be. And I really love that. So find
And
the
I've
next best goal to work towards. And
Mhm.
even just for today, do that.
Yeah, I've said this before in here and I'll say it again because I think it's so important. A longevity of something does not equal success of that thing.
Mhm.
And that is such a limiting belief in our collective society. I love
Really
the
is.
idea of just for today, you're going to be successful in it because however long a thing lasts does not make it a successful thing. You can try something, it can sustain you for a little bit, you can stop doing that thing. That was still a success for the time that you did it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
love
So
that. Great
it's
affirmation.
giving yourself permission to do what feels right now and see what comes next after that, and then do what feels right. It's literally
Hmm.
do the next right thing from Frozen 2.
Yes.
And that always comes up for me, and I love it so much. So
Hmm.
it is worth mentioning also that on this day, the sun will perfect a square with Jupiter. So again, we're a little over ambitious with our tasks and goals, and we're feeling a little bit of pressure to be almost like we're feeling pressure to others that we have to be
Hmm.
doing a lot of work. So this is going to be even more helpful to say like, no, I'm going to honor my feelings. If this isn't in alignment, I'm not going to like drive myself to insanity to do this. Because
Yeah.
remember, Luna, the moon in domicile, we also get the word lunacy. So don't
Hmm.
drive yourself crazy trying to do things that are out of alignment with you. You can
Yeah.
choose whether you are intuitive and in alignment or whether you are in lunacy and driving yourself nuts by being out of alignment. It's the
Mhm.
same vibe from different angles. So now that you've heard this, now that you get to know this is coming, you get to choose how to channel that energy. You get to choose what you are clicking by now on.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We also just wanted to acknowledge, we know everyone's tired.
Yeah.
We know all of you feel, I mean, everyone feels like, okay, another thing,
Yeah.
like everyone is tired. Honor that because it is a valid, true feeling. We have been put through the ringer. One of my favorite little TikTok videos I ever saw was someone like journaling, like living through historical events is
Mhm.
shit, truly shit indeed. And yeah, it is. It's exhausting and it's really, really hard. So we know that there's a lot of the energy coming in. Use these spaces where you're just getting to feel your own feelings as a way of like giving yourself a little bit of rest and reprieve from one thing after another, like it has
Mhm.
been.
Yeah. And again, just for today, I'm going
Yeah.
to turn off all notifications on my phone and spend some time on my couch. Last week, I noticed that the astrology was good for me to just give myself a quote sick day. And I just
Yeah.
spent the whole day on the couch. And it was wonderful and it was needed and it was really nice. And I felt refreshed and ready to do what I needed to do the next day. That little bit of reprieve can get you really far. And if it needs to be 3 days, do it. If you need to go on vacation to Hawaii, do it. It's a very healthy thing to do. We are not designed to go all the time. Even the sun rests because we
Mhm.
do have nighttime.
Yeah.
So it's okay to do that. And we do have Neptune on the same day on June 28th, will be stationing retrograde. Now, there are several ways that this can turn out, just like always,
Mhm.
but this is really a good time if you're consciously applying it. And it's plenty of time. This will actually be from the 28th of June until December 10th is how long this
Mhm.
retrograde will last. So during this time, it's really great to turn inward, meditate, focus on, your dreams, whether they're daydreaming or just dreaming in your sleep. Keeping a dream journal is really great. Developing your intuition and your faith,
Mhm.
taking account or taking advantage of therapeutic options, or even things that help you reflect on feelings that you don't normally feel on your own. So just
Mhm.
talking to someone else, having a reading, or approaching a therapist, and having your own little cocoon. It's a very warm and fuzzy time of just taking your space and honoring it.
Yeah. Which is, I think, part of the reason it feels the last couple months, it felt like we've been forced to pause
Mhm.
and forced to like, I want to do things, but I can't do things. Now with Neptune going into retrograde, it feels more like a decision to pause.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean things aren't working or moving and you can choose to have things move forward, but it's also that conscious like, oh, I did that thing. Now I'm going to rest.
Yeah.
And then I'm going
Or
to think about stuff, or I'm going to channel this in, or really get in tune with my intuitive guidance. I feel like a very strong kind of, and maybe the plants validate this, maybe they don't. This is just an intuitive thing that I've gotten. I really feel like the spiritual awakening that kicked off halfway through COVID for so many people have kind of fallen off of that. And I really
Mm,
feel it coming back up through later summer, beginning of fall this year. Big time. Like all those people
mhm.
that kind of fell away are going to come back in, like have a second wave of the spiritual awakening that started during COVID. It just feels really concrete. So I think that's probably something to do with Neptune, but also just in general, I keep tuning into that. I'm like, this just feels like it spikes back up again.
Yeah, especially when eclipse season kicks back in the
Yeah.
fall. It makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
it reminds me of the TikTok. There was a trend sound that was going around a while ago that was like, that's enough slices.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are at that point. We were like, okay, now that things are emerging again after whatever 2020 is going to be remembered as, we were like, yeah, we want to get stuff back on. We're ready to take things on. We want to, figure out our new lives. And now we're like, okay, that was a lot. We went a little too hard, too fast. This is kind of like a hangover.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and Neptune totally gets the whole inebriation vibe. So this is and a hangover is a great way of seeing it as taking rest after maybe going a little bit too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a great time to use that as finding stillness, finding yourself, reconnecting with the why you do what you do, with those innate subconscious purposes that really
Mm-hmm.
drive your conscious actions. So it's really a great time for that. And like I said, plenty of time for that. We have between like I said, June 28th through almost mid-December to really think about that. And you may have noticed if anything's come up, again, I don't do pre-shadow, post-shadow so much with these longer retrogrades, but
Yeah.
on the chance that something has been really prominent for you since about March 7th, this may be it. I think this retrograde, again, they're so far out. The degrees covered by this, Mercury can cover so much space when it's retrograde because it's closer to us and it swings around. But we're only really covering between 22 degrees Pisces and 25 degrees Pisces throughout this entire retrograde. It didn't make that much progress, or it's not going to go back that far, but it's going to take its time doing it. And we can learn a lot from the outer planets in doing that. Like, I don't have to do a ton and I can take my time doing it. Really nice to remember.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We hope this episode has helped you at least feel a little bit more comfortable.
Giving you permission to not freak yourself out, giving you permission to take some respite, to take some rest, to support your feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you all so much. We've gotten a couple different emails recently from you all. Like, thank you so much for listening and for supporting us. Also, our survey link for our international retreat is active currently, so you can go to either of our bios. It is going to be in there with our like snip feed link tree situations there, and you can just fill that out. Basically what we're asking is like, hey, where in the world would you like to travel with us, and what would you like to learn when we go there? We have some really strong ideas. We've channeled in some stuff. Like Turkey looks really promising for us. Jordan, Petra, that feels really promising. Morocco feels really promising to have very spiritually activated and aligned event, basically. So those are kind of the places we're throwing out to you guys. So if you feel particularly aligned with one of those, by all means, please let us know on the survey. But yeah, we're not taking a ton of people, but we want to travel with you all so badly. And we're so excited for the spiritual retreat in the spring. And yeah, so please go fill out that survey. We can't get it going until we get the responses we need to feel like that it's complete enough that we can move forward on exactly what we're putting on the trip. So yeah, please go fill that out. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think that's like the biggest thing right now. So we have a couple more announcements that are going to be rolling out over the next few weeks, but this is the one that's probably the most exciting for everybody, not just us. So yeah, I'm totally excited about it. I cannot wait. We already have some ideas. We want to make sure that we're actually filling a need that is necessary for the people who would come with us. So definitely fill out that survey, share it with people that you would also want to come on the trip with you, because this can be friends. It's a spiritual retreat. You don't have to have published a book or anything like that. This is just spiritual, learning how to make spirituality feel real in your life, and then learning how to take that back home with you afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of like a modern spiritual warrior sort of situation of like, how can you bring those psychic abilities and those activated energies into your day-to-day, and what does that look like now versus what it looked like 150 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and how we can bring all of that forward into the new world that is coming, that is happening around us. So we're so thrilled, and we want to travel with you and get to like give you hugs in person and all those fun things. And just get to hang out. And so please tell us where you want to go and what you want to learn. We really want to know. We're really excited. We can't wait to see all of you. So that's going to be super, super fun. And I hope that this new moon is rejuvenating for all of you guys too. Again, this is our pit stop. Let's take a nice little break. And I think that's helpful. Yeah. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening. We wish you a happy new moon. And that we really hope that you go make some magic. Hey. That's like my favorite part now. We hope all of you hit the timing the way we hit the timing. It's a learned skill. Bye. Bye.